Bang! What's up,
Welcome back.
explorers? Welcome back to episode 6 of the Mastery Podcast. Nick Durr, Adam Carroll, what's up? We are so glad to have you here, and if you are watching us on YouTube, welcome. If you're listening to us in your car or your AirPods or your headphones, we are glad to be in your left and right ear.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick, today we're talking about financial milestones.
Beautiful.
Give us some context around this.
Sure. So we're actually going to break up this podcast episode into two. There's financial milestones part 1 and part 2. But for part 1, the context is really, if you imagine climbing a mountain or climbing Everest, we're not going to just dive in and, climb it, right?
It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
And so what we're going to start with is really like, being in the foothills and going on a hike.
Cool.
So if we take that context, what are some of the things that we would need to either prepare or make sure that we at least educate ourselves on when we're going through these financial milestones?
This is a question I get all the time, particularly when I'm speaking at a college campus or at a young professional event. People who are just getting started and are trying to figure out how to get their financial feet under them. These are the kinds of things that I might recommend.
Okay.
And that being said, there are some people out there that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are still not great about money.
Sure.
And might need to know some of these things. So this really applies no matter your situation. And I will mention this. I think in part 1, these are things that everyone can use and everyone needs no matter what. Mm-hmm. In part 2, these are people who have kind of gone up halfway or a little bit higher up the mountain.
Yep.
And they're getting different advice. And I think that in the financial advising world, and you could probably echo this, agree or disagree, given your experience, but there's a lot of one-size-fits-all advice out there today. Like I think of Dave Ramsey as all one-size-fits-all advice.
Yep.
But not every situation is relevant to one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
Like everyone should have a personal financial plan because all of our stories are different. Mm-hmm. That being said, let's get into part 1. So I believe that, and I talk about this in the book, The Money Savvy Student, that I break down income and expenses as being great offense and great defense. And if you're going to win any game, you've got to play great offense, meaning you've got to make more money, and you've got to play great defense, meaning you've got to spend less or decrease your expenses. Mm-hmm. And so starting out, everyone obviously should have an income, and we're going to talk about some side hustle ideas and whatnot in a future episode. So we'll talk about that down the road. But right now, what I would say is, assuming you have an income, the goal should be that your income should always exceed your expenses. Put another way, you always want to have more money at the end of your month, not more month at the end of your money. And so if you have more month at the end of your money, you are not playing great defense more than likely. And you probably need to increase your offense. So there are some things, some accounts that everyone needs to have. And Nick, this is my perspective. I want you to echo in on this, but I believe that every single person, just in today's day and age, you're going to need a checking account that your money is direct deposited into. Mm-hmm. It's ideal to have a savings account that you are saving for short and maybe some long-term purchases on. These are car repairs, vacations, Christmas gifts, those kinds of things. And then I believe that everyone needs to have a money market account that becomes your emergency savings account. And that emergency savings account is a money market because it's not easily accessible with a debit card, which for most people, if they're able to access a savings account with a debit card, they're probably likely to. Yeah. Tell me what you think about those three first off.
Well, first of all, I would totally agree with you. I think in the accounts, the importance around having separate accounts really provides clarity and simplicity to where your money needs to go and where it belongs. I think a lot of times people don't know exactly where their money is. First of all, it's kind of the biggest thing that I hear from people is I have no idea how much money I have, where it is, what it's invested in, and like how I access it. So I think providing clarity around everyone should have a checking, a savings, a money market account. It makes it very simple, and everyone, like you said, can do this and should do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as far as the savings and checking and money market accounts go, we'll talk about savings again on an upcoming episode and how much would be ideal and all of that. But for folks who say, I have a really hard time saving money, my recommendation would be go to your HR department where you work and have them earmark a certain percentage of money that is deposited into an account before you ever get it on your paycheck. So if you have a hard time saving, consider perhaps having a savings account at a different bank than where you normally bank, and then just earmark 5% or 2% or 10%, whatever you can afford, over to that account. And trust me, once you start saving that money, you'll never miss it on your paychecks. So you want to automate the savings as much as possible. So again, checking account, savings account, and a money market account, which I like to describe as a savings account on steroids. At one point, you may be too young to know this, Nick, but money market accounts were returning like 5-6%. And today you're lucky to get probably 1% on a money market account, but it's something. So the idea is that money is sitting on the sidelines. It's easily accessible. It's always liquid. Okay. For people who are listening or watching that have a home, one of the things I recommend doing is going and setting up a home equity line of credit, or a HELOC. Now, I believe that HELOCs are used positively and some are used negatively. Some people use HELOC like a checking account, and they're going out and they're buying vehicles and they're paying for home repairs and they're doing all that, and then they pay on a monthly basis over the course of several months or years to get that thing paid down. That is not the way I'm going to encourage you to use it. So we're going to put pause on that, and I just want you to go open one, and you can do that at a bank or a credit union. You're not charged anything to open it, generally speaking, but it's accessible to you when you need it, and we'll talk about why that's important. And then the last three are all investment accounts that I think people need. And the three are a Roth IRA. I believe that everyone who is working, and if you're working for an employer that offers it, you should have money going into a 401k or a 403b if you work for a nonprofit. And then last but not least, depending on your belief about college and how you're going to afford college, pay for it for your kids, then I think most families need a 529 plan, which is a college savings plan. From your days as an advisor, would you agree with those three?
The Roth 401k and the 529. I would, yes. Especially with a Roth, we can dive deeper in this in a future episode. But there are income phase-out limits, meaning the more money you earn, this account may not be workable, let alone can use it. So while you can, I would definitely recommend it. And then the 401k/403b, it's, especially with a match, it is free money, so you need to be doing this, participating in it, or else you're leaving money on the table. And then the 529 really is an interesting conversation. I think, I'm, like I said, 26, don't have kids, and my view of technology and where the world is headed may be different from someone who does have kids and they're in high school about to graduate, or even in middle school, where I think there's going to be an interesting industry shift, and so the 529 is definitely still something to be aware of and something to know about, because if you don't, you're also missing out.